All right. Well, welcome everybody back to the next installment of the Sneaker Bisto podcast. I am your host, Tech Support Ted, aka TST. I'm joined with my main man, Sean Knows Everything, and we are excited to bring you another great episode. Today, we're going to be talking all about AI, which is an exciting topic, but we're going to talk about AI from AI, the basketball player. And so I'm really excited about that. He's one of my favorite players. I know Sean. You have a lot of love for Bubba Chuck as
Absolutely.
well.
Absolutely.
So we're rocking our Sixers
I'm
Bubba Chuck.
squeezing into
Yeah,
mine,
yeah,
but
yeah,
in
yeah.
it nonetheless.
Well, we still representing Allen Iverson today, who recently actually had a birthday, had a 50th birthday, and really grateful for all his contributions to the sport of basketball and to culture. And I think it's important for you guys to understand the reason why we picked AI today is because he was truly a transformative player, right? He brought a lot of creativity to his position, but culturally, he brought a lot of things into the sport that are still here today.
That
What do you think about that, Sean?
persistent. He
Mhm.
represented hip hop culture when hip hop culture was not represented in the NBA. As a matter
Yeah.
of fact, it was actively attempted to be stomped out. They tried to do that afterwards, but his legacy persists today in hip hop culture, is live and represented. Allen
Yeah.
Iverson was a game changer, literally a game
Absolutely,
changer.
absolutely. And it's amazing as I was doing research for the episode, Sean, just how many NBA players today reference him as a pivotal influence in their style of play. Even I watched a video where LeBron was talking about how he adopted the armband, the arm sleeve,
AI.
because of AI, right?
right.
Carmelo, right? And so you see a lot of players, wearing those sleeves, which originally, if you read up on it, AI wore it as a result of rehab for an injury,
Mm.
but he became so accustomed to it, and like a lot of basketball players, a little bit superstitious, right?
It became a
He
security blanket.
Yeah, it became his thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, his
yeah, yeah.
security blanket,
Yeah.
right? And then AI, from a stylistic standpoint, he was one of the first players to rock, the cornrows and
With the headband.
with the
right.
headband,
Yeah.
right? The tats, he really kind of brought a more edgy kind of look, right, to the league, and he got some flack for that, right?
So he was being real. That's all, his whole
Authentic.
thing was he was 100% authentic.
Yeah.
And he didn't feel
Yeah.
that he needed to
Yeah.
do anything or change anything for anyone because he was going to represent himself and his
Yeah.
culture. And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Kudos.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I also find fascinating about him is, there's the infamous practice.
You talking about practice?
Right? Practice.
You
right?
talking about practice?
Right.
We're talking about practice.
Practice. Right. And so his relationship with the press was a bit controversial too, right? Like AI was definitely he was not conforming
Right.
to the norms, right? He would wear his jumpsuits to press conferences, even though the league wanted you to wear a suit.
Dress code.
Right? Dress code, had many fines for that.
That's right.
Right. So very unconventional.
Happy to take the fines.
Right. Took the fine on the chin, kept it moving.
Right.
And so there's a lot of parallels between, the disruptive nature and in many ways of AI's personality and kind of what we're going to draw comparisons to in terms of, AIs and artificial intelligence.
That's right.
And how it's pushing the envelope and really challenging the status quo.
So,
and
I want just kind of what you
Mhm.
just said, the disruptive nature.
Mhm.
What you're talking about is the disruptive nature of genius.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. In many
And
ways.
Genius doesn't know it's disruptive. It just is.
It just is.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that.
It just exists,
It
right?
just exists.
Yeah. So, as we get ready for this, I want to also pivot and talk a little bit about what other people have said about AI, right? So, that nickname AI kind of evolved from the several nicknames. Obviously, they called him Bubba Check when he was,
Bubba
back
Chuck.
in
Hampton
VA,
Hampton University.
Roads.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Hampton
Bethel
Roads.
Manor. That's
Right. And there's a lot of great footage about his, career as a football player, and he'll actually talk about that, how he actually, enjoyed playing football,
Mhm.
and he thought he was going to go and be
Could have gone both ways.
could have gone either way, right? Amazing athlete.
Baseball too, I think.
Baseball too,
Yeah.
right? He was triple threat,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah, absolutely. But interestingly enough, a lot of people really saw him as what they called the answer. Like
Mhm.
that was one of the other nicknames he had,
That's right.
because he came into the league during a time where the old guard, Magic, Bird, MJ, like those guys were kind of they tapered off. And the league was sort of looking for that next, young batch of players. And that draft class he came in was loaded, man. There was
tough.
some
It's
amazing
deep.
people, right?
That's
And
right.
yeah, so he's coming in the league with, Tracy McGrady, Kobe, right? And obviously AI talks a lot about how he and Kobe respected each other and whatnot. But really, people recognized very early on how talented he was.
Mhm.
And I remember that first season, I never forget, he matched up against Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was at the tail end of his career,
Mhm.
or kind of trailing. And AI did this
Crossover.
crossover on MJ
Ooh, it was so smooth.
and almost broke his ankles,
Almost.
man.
MJ was.
MJ was like,
He was.
"Wha-"
I wasn't phased.
I mean, but it was an impressive
Oh,
move,
that's right.
right? Yeah.
He made the space
Oh
to
yeah.
take that shot.
Yeah.
So
Right.
yeah.
And so, case in point, AI was completely unapologetic and fearless,
Mhm.
right? In the way in which he entered the league. And people immediately recognized just that dogged, relentless nature of him, but also the creativity, right? The ingenuity. People oftentimes underestimated him because he was considered small, right, for his
6 foot.
position. Yeah,
Yeah.
as a shooting guard, right? And Larry Brown moved him to shooting guard. But I think even that move really took him to the next level because he could just create rather than having to run the offense, right?
Yeah.
And do some of the things that I think, set him up for the amazing career that he had. So yeah, man, AI, that's what we're talking about today. And it would be remiss if we didn't go into our sneaker reveal, right? And so we're really excited.
You also have to
Yeah.
set the scene for when
Mhm.
he came up with his sneaker, right? It was a Nike World,
That's right.
right? It
It
was a
was a
Nike
Nike
World,
World. Yep. It
and
was a
again,
Nike
going
World.
against the grain, he decided he was going to rep
Yeah.
Reebok,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Which
Uh,
also kind of changing the status
that's
quo,
right.
pushing the envelope.
That's right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
ahead, bring it in.
Yeah. So sneaker reveal time. We are featuring the AI Step Over version 4 edition. This shoe is an important shoe in terms of Allen Iverson's career, and there's some storytelling behind this because there's the moment that defined an era in his career. So we're going to flash back to the 2001 NBA Finals. Sixers were coming in against a loaded LA Lakers team. At this time, LA had Shaq, Kobe, Rick Fox, Horace Grant, Derek Fisher. I mean, they had
It was
guns, man. They were amazing, right?
it was a classic year.
Yeah, and they had just barreled through the playoffs, and the Sixers were coming in. They were depleted with injuries, and really were underdogs in that
Yeah.
series, right? And obviously, no spoiler alert here, but they did go on to lose the series. But that first game was amazing because AI literally took the Sixers and put them on his back. Went into overtime, and there's an iconic moment where he gets space between him and Tyronn Lue, who had been put on him to sort of slow
That's
him
right.
down, and he hits the fadeaway jumper and then steps over Tyronn, who's fallen down. Right?
It wasn't just this.
Yeah,
It was
a pronounced, yeah, it was stomp
That's
over.
right.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I'm
Which,
here.
yeah, basically, I'm here and
Right.
and I'm ready. Right.
right.
And so it's amazing to me because this shoe became connected to that game and definitely is a symbol of the way in which Iverson really stepped onto the scene
Okay.
and caused a huge wave in the sport. And it's been 19 years since that iconic moment, right? But in similar fashion, we see artificial intelligence, right, leaping over traditional search retrieval tools, right? Now making its way into the creative space
Yeah.
as a tool for content generation, right? Video, photo, audio, and it's a game changer,
No,
right?
I like that a lot. Yeah.
It's stepping over some of our pre-existing tools,
Absolutely, and hard.
stepping in, right, and letting you know
That's
I'm
right.
here,
That's
right?
right.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Very good.
what are your thoughts on just the AI scene right now, Sean?
Yeah,
Like,
so
just how it's changing.
That a really good question. And it's broad in
Yeah.
the many ways that can be answered. So we've got in business, and both of us working in security, we see all of the projects that are wanting to leverage AI in some way,
Mhm.
and just trying to take a second and understand what it means for the business is a huge problem. Well, I say it's a problem, but it's really a huge task. It's not a problem.
Right.
Right. The problem is when we use it the wrong way or for things that might not be appropriate necessarily,
Yeah.
especially from a security view. Why don't
Yeah.
you talk a little bit about appropriate use?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a big thing right now,
Yeah.
right? Even as we were getting ready for the episode, we were talking about how some of these tools are being used for deep fakes and to impersonate people. Even there's a libel risk and sort of a risk of slander because these video generation tools can take public figures and distort their image and
That's
make
right.
them look, like, they were in a place that they weren't, or make them appear to be, doing activities that they weren't necessarily doing, right? And so I think there are pitfalls everywhere, right? Like most new technologies or emerging technologies, we always find both good and nefarious uses in parallel. That's the human condition.
That's right.
But I do find it to be amazing in that the creativity that I'm seeing expressed from some of these tools is pretty remarkable. And I think, as we were talking before, um, there's a fine line between, was the AI generating something, or what is the element of the role of the human, right? In some of these Gen AI tools.
Right.
Look no further than some of Google's new video generation tools, you know, from a prompt to a fully baked 4K editable video in seconds, right?
This is not a Google sponsored,
Of course not. Thanks for that disclaimer.
but Google is just killing it.
They're doing some crazy things.
The entire suite,
Yeah.
from Gen AI, just general prompt, through research, through video gen, through image. Keep doing what you're doing, Google. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, doing
just
some
good
amazing
stuff.
things. Yeah,
And right now it's free.
that's right.
Right now,
That's right.
at least.
Limited time offer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But sort of building on that, I want to kind of pivot to some stats, right? In kind of looking at the AI landscape, 67% of organizations are using large language model AI to support operations, right? That's impressive. We're talking Fortune 500 companies in 2025, 67% of them are already using some form of AI to support their operations.
That's huge.
Right. And their risk, you talked about risk. Obviously, there's the privacy issues and all that, but even from a business standpoint, over dependence on AI, right? Like, do you have the right controls around it? Are you rushing into the pool so quickly that you've not put your life vest on and your floaties on, right?
Yeah,
That's a concern. $82.1 billion is the projected AI market by 2033.
So I heard that
Unbelievable.
too, in one of my research streams, and that was thought to, in some cases, be small, like
It's might be low
by a margin of like 90%.
Yeah,
they're expecting it in some cases to reach almost $1 trillion in AI business over the next 10 years, right?
Yeah,
which is
that's hard to fathom.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable to think about that, and I'm still kicking myself because I had my Nvidia stock a few years back, and had I known, right, definitely would still have that in my portfolio. But
is that 800%?
right, yeah, exactly. But to that point, the
Yeah.
sky seems to be the limit, right? And so ultimately, to the viewers, right, just be aware that if you're not up on AI capabilities, technology, you're missing the boat, right? I mean, this isn't going anywhere. There's only going to continue to be more adoption and more use cases. And once we determine, to your point earlier, responsible use, right? Like, I anticipate more oversight, right? Even we talked earlier
So what does that mean, though? What does more oversight mean?
So, interesting you mentioned that, right? So obviously, there's some frameworks in place. NIST has an AI risk management framework, right? Which is great.
CSA just released theirs, too.
CSA, right? We've got OS releasing an AI, set of top 10 threats,
Mhm.
right? I think, like most things, we're playing catch up. The challenge with AI regulation, though, is there's so many different use cases. How do you wrap arms around all of them, right? Or do you focus just at the core risks associated with things like bias? So for the viewers, right, the idea is that, as the model is learning and being trained, right, inherently, just like in the human experience, we all have biases, and guess what? These learning algorithms do too, right? What are the mechanisms in place to limit that bias or to detect it, right? So, it's not just about, in my opinion, laws, rules, and regs and saying, okay, well, what are the acceptable uses, or how do we govern companies that are building AI tools, right? And for example, enforcing watermarks for AI generated images, right? So that people know the difference between a real image and a computer generated one. But it's also about, how do we equip the consumer, right, to know what their rights are in this space? So there's multiple aspects, right? There's the corporate side of it, there is the technology side, but then there's also just the common user. Because the key difference here, and I did want to highlight this, the underlying technology for AI has been around for a while, right? we've had
Years.
machine learning,
Yeah.
robotic process automation, but what we've not had before is it being widely available.
The generative
The
aspect of
generative
it,
aspect is
widely
gone.
available. Right.
Right. The ability for anyone to just, go into ChatGPT, interact, either, obviously retrieve content, but also generate content.
Yeah.
Right. And that generative aspect, I think, has a more nuanced perspective when it comes to risk.
Sure.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to how corporations,
Mhm.
right, can then make whatever products they generate or
Yeah.
create
Yeah.
available. What are the implications there?
Yeah.
And not just the creative aspect,
Right.
right?
Yeah. I
But
mean, yeah.
we are overall talking about IP.
Yeah, we get into IP
So,
conversation, the legality pieces of
right,
it, right? Intellectual property,
it's a
right?
continuum,
It
right?
is a
So
continuum.
where legally
Yeah.
can we sit
Yeah.
on that continuum? Right? So,
Well, and we're figuring it out, right? I mean, even in the creative space, there's been a lot of questions about, for example, music production, right? And if AI is leveraged, in the songwriting process,
right.
right? Do the AI model authors and creators receive royalties, right? Or right? Is it sort of just free for use, or like what are the terms and conditions behind that, right? In terms of product creation,
That's
whether it
right.
be, creative arts, or even in the case of code, right? A lot of AI components are now being leveraged for code assistance, right? To help developers code faster and higher quality. And I think there's a valid use case for that. But then the question becomes, in terms of authorship, right? Attribution, and then we get into intellectual property, and then we get quickly into the conversation around ownership and
Absolutely.
royalties.
So we
Right?
had a conversation about this just
Mhm.
recently, and one of the thoughts that came up was you've written songs before,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Mhm.
Uh, and in your 32 years of life, in your 32 years, when you've written a song, where do you think that inspiration came from?
It's a great question. I know where you're heading with that.
Uh,
I think inspiration comes from a variety of places, but for most creatives, including me, life experiences, right? Things that your memories, your emotional database, right? The experiences that you've had, and as you reflect on them and sort of ruminate or think about them, the creative spark combines with that,
Yeah,
right? And you begin to create narratives, right? Which become poetry, which become songs, and become
you've heard a
right.
James Brown song in your life,
Oh, absolutely.
right? You've heard a Beyonce song.
Absolutely.
You've also heard the Beatles
Yep.
and the Clash,
Mhm.
right? Do you need to pay each one of them for being the inspiration of the song that you wrote?
It's a great question.
Right?
Not unless you're sampling their recorded
You don't even
material,
need to
but
sample, right? The
right.
idea
The
is that we are
idea.
taking with AI is taking the net of everything that it knows about music
Yeah.
and generating something.
Yeah. An interpretation.
A,
Yeah.
a specific, you can ask it for another,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But technically, everything that it learns, it's giving to you when you
Right.
ask it for it, right? So
Right.
the same way that we sit down and write a song is because I had a talk with my dad and my mom
Mhm.
and heard a song and saw I don't know, an episode of A Different World.
Yeah.
And then I'm inspired to write a song. Do I need to pay everybody? Right?
That's a
Because of
great
that?
question.
So,
Yeah, it's a valid question, and I think it is perfectly contextualized in this conversation, because now AI is a co-conspirator, so to speak, in the human experience, which
absolutely.
which
The human
right,
experience. So perfectly said.
absolutely,
Perfectly
right,
said.
and now the question then becomes, over time, how is that line redefined between what is truly human and what non-human tools, like how they interact with us,
Sure.
right? And it's fascinating we're having this discussion, because I remember as a young kid reading Isaac Asimov's some of his books. My dad was big into sci-fi, and
Sure.
talking about robotics
Yes.
and ethics around that. And I think we're quickly finding ourselves in those spaces where there's a redefining of what it means to be human and what it means to be machine, right? Yeah.
Especially when money's involved.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
Microsoft and Google, actually all OpenAI, Microsoft, Google, they're all involved in lawsuits right now.
Yep.
Over
Mhm.
creative
Yep.
commons or not, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For things that have been generated by AI.
Yep.
So how do we tread the space and keep companies holding their own IP? And I'm not sure where we're going on the next, but I did want to spend a little time, if you wouldn't
No,
mind.
let's do that. No,
Like,
let's do it. And yeah.
coming from our perspective now, companies are out there. It may be you that's a small business, or you may be a part of a corporation that is responsible for making sure that anything that is generated does not upset other people, right? Or create a situation where you're liable for crossing the boundaries of what is considered creative or someone else's IP. So how do we make sure we're doing it? How do we not only secure but also make sure that our companies are following whatever regulatory guidelines are? It's not really regulatory.
It's
It's
more of an
right.
ethical question too,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think, first and foremost, like you said, there will be new legal precedent after all these lawsuits are settled. And I would imagine that some of them will go all the way to the Supreme Court. And there will be whole new, oh, that's a whole nother topic. That's for a different episode. But there will
Supreme
be
Court.
new precedent, right, around like what this actually means, right? And
Right.
people will challenge, right? But I think from my standpoint, corporations, in addition to their responsibility to their consumers and their boards, right? I think what you're getting at is there is a fundamental conversation, and I know it's happening in a lot of places around. What does it mean for us to protect our customer in this conversation, right? Because at the end of the day, companies exist to create value for their customers, right? That's what they exist for. The moment they are unable to do that, they cease to exist, right?
And if we are
Right.
overly litigious right now,
Hmm.
and those customers are constantly getting sued, and we weren't able to protect them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do we do that? So
Well, and I think the how comes back to the conversation around governance. And this is actually a perfect setup for our guest that's coming on in just a minute. Because internal corporate governance, I think, is grappling with that before all of the guardrails that we talked about that will eventually come, right? Laws, rules, regs that are specific to these use cases. Corporations are going to have to self-govern in many ways.
sure,
And I think that's where the challenge is right now is what is the risk appetite for each corporation or business? What are they willing to risk, and what are they not willing to risk? And how do they negotiate that in a way that allows them to both innovate, protect their assets, and remain profitable,
and
right?
protect their
And their
customers,
customer.
right?
Yep.
If
Yep.
I have a contract with TST Inc.
Hmm.
and I want to use that product, if I use a product, am I going to get sued?
Yep,
Right.
absolutely. That's the big question. Yep. Yep.
Brilliant.
Yep. All right. Well, listen, folks, with that, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to pick up right where we left off. We're going to be joined by Nick James, CEO of White Glove AI, and we're going to
White
be talking
glove
about
AI.
more AI stuff, all things risk, governance, tools, you name it. We'll be back in about 50 seconds. All right. Sneaker Be So podcast. We'll be back shortly. All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. And we're so glad you joined us on the Sneaker Be So podcast. We are so excited today to be joined by our special guest, Nick James, a great friend of mine. He is the CEO and founder of White Glove AI. And he is a visionary by far. He's one of my mentors in this space. And he is the chief AI officer as well, right, of White Glove AI, a leading firm dedicated to securing and transforming the AI space with over 16 years of strategic leadership in cybersecurity and AI. You founded White Glove AI to come in and bridge this gap, right, that we were
Yes.
talking about between the potential of AI and the practical implementation pieces as well. And so we're so excited to have you here today to talk about, your journey in tech, but also specifically about how AI is changing the game
Mhm.
for business and for the consumer as well. And most importantly, Nick has done a fantastic job of really setting the bar high around AI governance. And that's kind of what we were talking about before, right, Sean?
Yeah.
All right, how do we manage risk? How do we ensure that there's proper governance? And how do we manage all this while still having fun with the tools, right? Because that's part of this too, right,
I
Nick?
think
That's the best part of
That is the
this.
best part. So yeah, so we're so glad to have you, man.
Thank you for having me
Yeah,
on,
great
Ted.
to
I
have you on
appreciate it.
board. So
Absolutely.
why don't you just start us off while just talking about, your journey in tech and how you came to get into this AI space, man.
Sure. I mean, I think I'll start at the way back where I fell in love with technology was really my curiosity really grew from when I was a child, right? So
Mhm.
my uncle would remember that I would spend about 5 minutes playing with a remote control car. The rest of the time I was taking it apart to figure out how it
Yeah.
worked. It started there, and it really blossomed in high school where I was building computers and helping out the IT department. I took my A+ when I was 16.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
I
cool.
mean, I failed one of the tests because it's 2 tests. But it was really cool to take it at 16. Then it really came to fruition and turned into a career for me in the United States Marine Corps. My last 4 years of the 8 years I served, um, I was in what they called network security now, cybersecurity, doing a lot of work in Asia Pacific, defending our nation's digital borders from countries like North Korea and China. So I really cut my teeth there. And then I left the Marine Corps. Me and my wife had our first son, and we share names. I don't want to share here.
That's pretty
Our
cool.
sons have the same name, which is very rare. It's a rare name.
Yep.
Great name though. And so got out. Thought it was the responsible thing to do, not to be doing dumb things that risk my life. Right.
Right.
And then I started my private side career at the Veterans Affairs. Was kind of a good transition point.
The
There's
VA,
a lot of at the VA.
Yeah.
I ended up leading the Security Operations Center, one of 2 sites. And I didn't know this until after I left, but it's the second largest network in the United States.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. And then we're talking about HSBC. I did risk management. I've worked at Dell SecureWorks, actually on Bank of America firewalls as a part of the ProServe team at Dell SecureWorks. Deloitte to help build their first global cybersecurity standards team. I authored their very first 9 standards that were ever globally approved. That was pretty cool. Then Bank of America, AWS. But before that, Blue Cross Blue Shield. So I kind of been around the world when it comes to cybersecurity, and I saw a huge need for services. There was lots of money being poured into post COVID. A lot of venture capital funding being poured into products, but nobody was really focusing on services. It's great to have a product, but when you bring it into an organization, being able to actually implement it or even get out of a POC is very difficult. It's still difficult.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of there's this sort of like founder's mentality of building failing fast and building fast, right? But then at breakneck speeds, but then when it comes to the enterprise, everything's slow, everything's drawn out, and
Right.
there's nobody in the middle to do that translation. Be like, hey, founding team, like slow down, like your clients have a lot of people that they need to answer to, regulations that they need to answer to. And if they don't, then they get fined. So you got to come prepared, right? Right. Like a lot of founders don't even know what a third-party risk assessment is. So I think coming with that cybersecurity background and helping enable AI solutions to be introduced to the enterprise, and with our mission of helping our clients securely and responsibly adopt AI, I think that's really the basis for White Glove AI.
So when you say White Glove AI, the White Glove meaning you are helping with the service that you're providing, you're helping your customers and your businesses to adopt AI.
Yes.
And with the White Glove, right? With White Glove treatment.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
That's brilliant.
And it's about tailor fitting. I've seen far too many times an entire team or department change their entire process simply because of the constraints of a tool that somebody at the top decided to bring in. Far too many times.
Boy, oh boy, have you just...
Wow, that's a whole other podcast
I've
episode.
never seen that. No, 100%.
Right? And it should never be that the vendor dictates how you do your job. right?
Right.
You have processes to follow. Those processes are linked to standards. The standards are linked to policies.
Yeah.
Policies are tied to regulations. Like
Mhm.
there is a food chain, right?
There is a food chain.
and you cannot have a vendor come in and dictate how you do your work.
So you are uniquely positioned to see, really, I think, all of the craziness and the confusion that AI presents. It
Yeah.
can, like, the way it can present itself
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
enterprises. Can you talk a little bit about, like, what are some of the main things that you see when people are trying to adopt AI, and how you've helped them to do that?
I think there's a large misconception of what AI is.
Mhm.
I think there are a few camps of people. There are camps of people that say AI has been around for 70 years, right? They're referring to the time of Alan Turing, right?
Right.
And then
Mhm.
there are those are the same people who say, oh, this is nothing new. We got it. We understand it. Don't worry about it, right? So they're kind of relying on their, I would say, traditional understanding of AI to drive the decisions they make in adopting generative AI.
Mhm.
Right.
Then there are people that are extremely scared of it because they feel like they're losing job security, and
Right.
the headlines don't help, right?
Yeah.
And the
That's true.
CEOs, like the Ford CEO, just came out and said like white collar jobs are fully at risk at Ford. And this is the CEO of Ford, for Christ's sakes. Like this
Right.
is not AWS or Salesforce,
Right.
Right.
which both, Salesforce did the same thing.
Right.
The earlier this year, Workday laid off 1,300 people. So
Yeah. IBM recently
IBM,
had
exactly. So I
had a
was like,
risk.
Yeah.
so those people are scared of their job security. They're scrambling. They're trying to figure out. So either they're fully against it and they will do everything within their power to avoid or prevent the adoption of AI, or they will embrace it. And those really are the ones who turn into champions and advocates, the ones who understand that they're not going to stop it. It's going to happen whether they like it
Right.
or not.
Right.
So I think those are two big camps that I see out there.
So can we address that a little bit?
Yeah.
Are we seeing, as a direct result of the adoption of AI and the efficiencies gained by leveraging AI, are we seeing a loss of information worker jobs?
Yeah. You're going to see it. I presume that because AI can't run autonomously, at least not right now, right?
Mhm.
Human in the loop is is integral to responsible AI
Sure.
adoption, right?
Absolutely.
And we haven't even talked about agents, but when agents are around, going around your network, running around, doing things like they need a manager, just as if
Of a
the
human.
team, a
Right.
human, right?
Absolutely.
To
Mhm.
it's checks and balances,
Sure.
right? But you're going to see there will be sort of a dip in knowledge worker jobs. You're already seeing it on LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn is not the greatest measurement for available jobs. I think a lot of them are just fake. And there is no real measurement of what available jobs are out there. But you'll see a dip, but then you'll see it come back up when we figure out what these new jobs are that AI is creating. It's not going to be the same job, right?
Right.
And I think that unfortunately, if you are in your organization, and I don't know which camera I'm talking to, and you're
Mhm.
hiding, you better stop hiding and figure it out. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Let's dig deeper into that, right? What are these new jobs? Because number one, I'm obviously an advocate of responsible AI use, right? And I also advise people in terms of career development in cyber. How do you see, job transformation, particularly in the cybersecurity space, being fueled by AI adoption?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I would say a great place to start is IAM.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
Nice. Yeah.
We've seen far too many instances or news articles about Copilot giving HR information, finance information.
Yeah.
That
Mhm.
right.
So
So
Right.
identity access management is
yeah,
what we're
Right.
talking about.
That's
everything
right.
starts with data, right?
Yes.
The cleanliness, the organization, the availability, the version controlling, and then most importantly, from a cybersecurity standpoint, access control to data,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
So I would say that early, I mean, not early on, but altogether, I think IAM is poised to transform. And I think we're going to see huge inflections of opportunities for growth in IAM, especially when we have agents turning on, right?
So,
How like a lot of the times I would say, like, I think there's definitely a thread to pull on and lessons learned from service account management
Right.
and
Non-human
privilege
accounts.
accounts
Yep.
management
Yep.
and, like, privilege elevation, things
So-
like
Mhm.
just
So
in
is that
time.
when you say that it's poised to change? Is that with regard to how agentic AI will be or I guess will be enabled from an IAM point of view? Is
Yes,
that what you mean?
yes, yeah.
Okay.
It needs to be, right.
Mhm.
You can't just let them loose
Sure, sure.
In your network.
in your
Right, right.
network, right?
Yeah.
So is it not just simply then RBAC?
It definitely is.
Yeah.
100% is. But the thing, what's unique about agents is they operate a lot faster, right? They can do things a whole lot faster.
Right.
And we're going to need to be able to monitor their work, right? So explainability is really important. And then we're going to need to be watching like a hawk what privileges they're asking requests for. We can't give them a role that has persistent or evergreen
Yes,
elevated
privileges.
permissions,
Indeed,
right,
indeed.
to certain assets.
Yeah.
Just-in-time privilege elevation is going to be very important with
Right.
the agents.
So Pam, so if what Nick has just indicated, right? RBAC meaning roles-based access control. It is a modicum of that, but I think Nick is saying that we're going to have Pam, just-in-time delivery of Pam for these lightning fast agentic AI agents that are going to be doing the work on behalf of, as we just
Correct.
indicated,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the enterprise.
Yeah.
So,
Information access and regulatory compliance, standards management. I think there are too many people demanding information and clarity of policies and standards from the security team,
oh,
right?
Yeah.
So being able to answer high volumes of inquiries accurately is another
so
area.
policy embedded agentic.
Yeah. So
Yes.
just simply having an agent that's accessible in Teams. You can @sign Pam, whatever you want to call the agent, and say @sign security team. I'm building this app, full context. It'll ask some clarifying questions. It will say, okay, well, this is what you have to do. It would have taken 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Sure.
What's normal SLA? I don't even know. Like for a response from the security team on security guidance if you're building an app or making a change.
It's come down a little bit since then, but
Okay.
But it's still unreasonably
right.
long.
But
it's still an SLA.
Yeah.
But
Right.
getting
time
it-
delay.
Right.
Yeah.
But getting it
In real
immediately,
time. Right.
Yeah.
think about what that's going to do for the business.
So
Yeah.
would you have, again, I'm just trying to, my mind is being blown as I'm speaking to you, but are we talking about an agent, a policy agent that is
Yeah.
speaking?
Mhm.
The bane of my existence in GRC was spent around mapping. I hate
That's
mapping
right.
so much.
Oh, yeah.
Mapping activities. Yep.
Like I want to be very emphatic that I hate mapping. and I loved what UCF did, the Unified Compliance Framework, but
Yes.
that was expensive.
Yeah.
And I give them
And
props
yeah.
for putting copyright on an Excel sheet, like mad props on that one. Yeah. So it was just a giant Excel sheet.
That's awesome.
But imagine, right? Like not having to bypass all of that, right?
Mhm.
Like literally having whatever policy and standards framework
real time right there.
in real
Real time.
time at your disposal.
And,
right?
and when PCI DSS 5.0 comes out, right? Like you don't have to do like the shotgun big bang approach. Like, oh my God, we have to comply by next week. We haven't even been focusing on it. It's been out
Mhm.
for 6 months.
We're being audited.
Yeah, we're being
You're
audited.
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then
Right, right.
all hands on deck,
Right.
2 weeks.
Right.
We got to get it done.
Yeah.
There's
Right.
so many rooms for error, right?
Yeah.
There's margins for error built into activities like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine having an agent that's constantly monitoring for updates to regulations that you care about, that you are encumbered by.
So every audit is flawless
Flawless.
because
Yeah.
it's all agentic.
And,
Oh,
and
man.
you have to think about like the origins of a technical control. It's backed by something, right? It has a lineage.
It does.
A technical control
Sure.
should be linked directly to a control statement.
Mhm.
And the
Absolutely.
performance of that control should be dictated by the control's objective,
Right.
right? In a
Supporting
perfect
evidence.
world, right?
Absolutely.
In a perfect world, that's how it should be designed. And that control statement might be a part of a standard,
Mhm.
and that standard is linked to a policy statement. The policy statement is derived from and driven by a regulatory requirement or a commitment that we've made, like ISO
To manage risk.
27001 or
Sure.
something
Mhm.
like that.
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
there's a lineage there. So if you can have an agent that's out there searching and monitoring for regulatory changes and immediately saying, hey, just got a new update, I've already analyzed all of our policies and standards, here are all the control statements that need to be changed. And then you have another agent passes that information along as a controls agent and says, hey, I've checked all of our controls in our AWS account through AWS config. These are all the controls that need to be updated. Here are the configuration changes. I can push it out using infrastructure as code.
That's right.
Or Terraform,
Terraform.
or Cloud
Yep.
Formation, right?
Yep.
Like that's the
Lambda,
future.
Whatever. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So theoretically, again, in this future, we would have not only updates to policy happen within minutes, all of that information has been distributed to all of the agents who are monitoring for that change.
Correct.
And then all of the updates and the change, right? Control.
Yep.
A change control agent would happen such that we are just current
hit approve,
current and compliant.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All of the time.
Continual compliance.
And,
Yes.
and I love
Like that
talking
continuous
about
compliance.
continuous.
Yeah.
Continuous
Continuous compliance.
compliance.
I love how much that's used, but it's not actually done.
Right.
Continuous is a spectrum, right? There's
It
like
is,
It's
right?
relative
There-
to-
it is
yeah,
relative as well.
yeah.
yeah,
absolutely.
continuous could
Yeah.
be in a year, could
Right.
be in a week.
That's
Or
right.
it could be when the regulators send you that letter that they're coming on site.
That's right.
I'm about to be continuous for the
right
next
now,
week.
For the next week, I'm going to be. But as soon as you leave,
I'm be
it's party
continuously
on.
working.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to pivot and talk a little bit about, what does this all mean, right? Because everything we're talking about, and we've gotten to the tech, we've talked about process, we've talked about governance. This is going to change quality of life metrics, right, for the security professional, right?
Mhm.
But even when we talk about the consumer, because I want to kind of get back to their point of view, like how does AI enable efficiency, right, in terms of how they're dealing with financial institutions or with
Sure.
companies?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, and Sean and I talked about this, right? Companies exist to create value for customers,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And all of these efficiency gains, they have to eventually make their way down the value chain into what actually
Mhm.
makes sense for a customer. What's your point of view on that in terms of like how, back office changes, whether it be on the security side, the operations side, ultimately, how would that impact the customer success and the customer outcomes? What are your
So
thoughts on
your
that?
question is, how will changes that AI will make in cybersecurity department ultimately impact our company's ability to satisfy their customers? Is that
Yeah,
the
and I think
question?
even in the broader context, the whole tech stack, right? I mean, we talked a lot about cyber, but there are other routines, right? Operational routines, and
Sure.
even we talking about automating change management, which
Mhm.
is where you were headed with that, right? Like, okay, I can take my change window from several days down to hours, right? Because I've literally come down that lineage, and
Mhm.
now I have an actionable set of instructions to push through the change control, right?
Yep.
Ultimately,
Not just that,
yeah,
policy management as well. Yeah.
as well, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like that has to do something for a person who walks into a banking center or a wealth management center.
Yeah.
How do you see all that working
I,
together?
I,
Since you do a lot of business with transformation for businesses as well.
at the end of the day, my vision for this is everything is customized and unique to that person.
Wow.
Everything.
Wow.
Think
You
about
talk- yeah,
dynamic
expand
UI.
that.
Let's,
Yeah.
let's
Think
put
about
a
deep.
thread on that. Yeah.
Think about me going to a website and you go to the same website, but you have different preferences than I do, right?
Mm.
Perhaps you have an accessibility issue,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Perhaps you have a disability, right? You have an expectation of consuming that content from that website much different than I do.
Mhm.
I have different preferences. I like seeing. I'm more visual, but you're more auditory,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Think about dynamic UIs. That's the
Wow.
future. And I walked into 2025 fully convinced of a future of no UI, low UI.
And
To
AI
improve
becomes
UX.
the UI
Yeah.
experience.
Meet the people where they are. Why?
Wow.
People are on their phones calling, right? A little
Yeah.
less nowadays. They're texting and they're emailing.
So talk about that. Like from my picking up my phone or sitting at my MacBook, right? And I go to a site. How will I experience that differently? How will I know? How will I get my tailored experience? How does that
It
happen?
starts with the browser. That is your pathway, your window into the internet is the browser.
So we have browser embedded AI, or is it just an AI browser?
It's an AI browser.
Okay.
Wow.
Perplexity is releasing Comet, right? There are very few players doing browser-based AI.
Mhm.
Okay. Obviously, it's risky, right? It's about as risky when Chrome introduced plugins, right?
Mhm.
If not more. Yeah, that's another
There's a lot of heat
podcast.
on
Yeah, there's a lot of heat. Yeah.
Um,
Disclaimer. We'll put a disclaimer later, but go ahead.
We
but
talked about Google earlier.
We had
Chromium.
Google,
right?
Chromium.
But think about an agent constantly learning based on your clicks, how much time you spend on a particular section, how you're consuming information off of a website. The
Mhm.
questions that you're asking, its side panel, you're asking questions, right? Like a chat GPT that's just right inside the side panel. It's a native part of the browser.
Mhm.
And now it's starting to learn what your preferences are as a human, right? And it will customize and communicate. And this is probably like maybe a little too deep, but there's something called MCP servers, model context
Model
protocols.
context
Yeah.
protocols. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So model context protocols will enable agent-to-agent communication. So
Indeed.
if your
Right.
browser
There's a
has an
format for it now.
agent that
That's right.
understands your preferences and your preferences,
Mhm.
then it can communicate to the MCP agent that's associated with that website and
Which is
say, serve the website in this form
For this user.
for Ted.
based on this model.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
And
Highly customized,
and the
that's it.
entire UX or the UI is rewritten just for you.
And transform in line.
So
right? Like
I'm just taking that model context protocol back. Browsers with modules that are removable or adaptable,
Mhm.
right? So the browser itself can be really anything, right? You're not. It
Becomes a
is
canvas.
nebulous for
Right.
the most part, right?
that's a great
Yeah.
way to describe it, a canvas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Becomes a
each-
canvas with it becomes a window of the internet into how you want to perceive your world.
So you've just literally coined. I know you've got Y Combinator experience, so you've just literally coined like 6 different AI companies, like just now. Like,
They're inspired from things I'm seeing in the market. To be
Right.
honest with you, I'm not
Yeah.
as original as although I appreciate it. They're just combinations of things that I'm seeing. Just
Yeah.
they're like trends, I just see
Right.
trends, and I think that this is the direction we're moving in. And I think at the end of the day, we need to factor away the screen. It's an epidemic, right?
oh,
The harms that the screen causes to us, constantly staring at it.
Yep.
It's not the way we were designed to interpret our
interact.
world.
so what is the answer?
Well,
Going back to AI,
OpenAI
by the way.
set a new signal by acquiring Johnny Ive's company. He was the original designer of the iPhone, and they acquired that for some ungodly number. I don't remember. It starts with a B. But
For the IP?
yeah, I mean, I think OpenAI acquired the entire company, the design company,
Mhm.
and there have been some leaks showing that it is not a phone.
Hmm.
Although the original design that Johnny Ive came up with was a phone.
Mhm.
Now we're looking at moving closer to Ray Kurzweil's future of singularity, where the human and the machine become more and more integrated.
Mhm.
This
Right?
is the path.
That's where we're moving.
This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
The Kurzweil future.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, Elon's always been like light years ahead of everybody. So he has Neuralink, right?
Right.
I think that's an extreme example. Will it get there? Maybe. There are a lot of movies that signal that.
Yep.
And Hollywood is popularly known to invent our future. But I think that factoring away the screen is going to be the ultimate experience. And I think selective use of screens for selective things, like you can't play a game without a screen, right?
Mhm.
You can't do a video call without a screen.
I mean, but you can't. So what you said, you started it with the user interface, right? It's the UI or the UX, right? So what you're talking about now is the removal of that, or where else might we have that interface with,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Neuralink one, but it doesn't just have to be there. It can be anywhere we might interface.
I mean, anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
This is about, at the end of the day, like the fundamentals here is about changing human machine interface. For the longest time, we've been using a mouse and a keyboard.
Right.
That's our inputs.
Mhm.
Right.
The computer's output is sound and
An
a
image,
screen,
right?
and an image.
Image content.
So we're
Right.
changing the interface meaning from intrusive, non-intrusive, which is the mouse and the keyboard.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Well, we say that's not intrusive. It's the same way we say non-invasive for surgery.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
But
Right.
we've changed that.
Yeah.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
We can now do surgery non-invasively.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We can interface non-intrusively.
Right.
And that it's figuring out where that on that continuum we want to be as a species.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it's a deeper understanding of our five senses.
Mm-hmm.
I think an introduction of a new way of communication was haptic feedback on the phones.
Yes.
Yes,
Right?
I agree.
It's
totally
so
agree.
unnoticeable, but I expect it.
You
now.
can't.
Yeah.
right?
We're big
We've-
conditioned now.
We have removed all of the haptic feedback. Originally, people were like, "Oh, I don't like,"
Yeah.
right? But now
I'm haptic
you gotta have
feedbacking right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
but the
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
become
yeah.
so pervasive in society that
Yeah. Nobody
Game
ever has
controllers.
their
Yeah.
ringer on.
Right.
You know, like
Right.
I hope you don't have your ringer on.
that's right.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's illegal now, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There's an ordinance. Yeah, no, you're right.
There's a noise ordinance against that.
Mhm. Yeah, but it sounds like there are going to be new hardware in devices too, right?
Yes,
and new
yes,
ways that we
yes.
experience
Yeah.
computing and software
A-
in
a-
ways that we haven't even imagined yet, right?
and memory.
And memory.
Memory is so fleeting. The
Mhm.
way we store and recall memory is so
Sure.
fleeting. I think our
Mhm.
memory's being challenged, right? We as a species, like we have like a 3% separation. That's probably not a good number, but from like a dolphin, right?
To be sure, when you say memory, you mean recall.
Recall. Well, I mean retention and recall.
Retention.
Okay.
Recall.
There is a device that I will purchase fairly soon called Limitless. It just clips on, or I can wear it as a necklace. It is on all day. It's a note taker on high octane. That's what it is. It's on all day, and it would be capturing this right now. And then I go back to my app. It's constantly processing audio. It'll separate voices. It knows my voice, and I can be like, "Hey, what did I talk about that on the pod?" Summarize the whole podcast for me.
Mhm.
Summarize me walking up to the podcast room, me talking to the receptionist. What did she tell me again? Like, it's listening all day. So now we're gonna have memory enabled AI, and we're getting closer to that Jarvis experience that Tony Stark
Mhm.
originally came out with.
Yeah.
With there's a camera on that as well, right? I would imagine at some point.
No, there is no camera
Or
just
is it an
yet. I think
option set at
Meta
some point?
tried that.
Mhm.
We don't. I don't think our edge technology is powerful enough just yet, and we need 6G.
With increased videos, what we're talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because video is just heavy,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
We don't have the right video compression, and nor do we have the 6G bandwidth to handle that much video, right?
Yeah.
So I think audio is easier to process.
Sure.
Yeah, and even if you have like Apple Intelligence, I just updated my MacBook. Now I have intelligence. I don't know what that means, but hopefully one day I find out.
We'll talk. I can't tell you how I know, but we'll talk.
Okay.
But okay.
Yeah.
So we've talked about moving the interface, or rather redefining what that interface
Correct,
is,
yeah.
even if it is removing, that's fine. But how we interact with AI, right, to enhance our human experience.
Yeah.
Then what is the next step, though? If we, again, this is for everyone who's tuned in and hasn't seen or hasn't experienced AI, even if it's just on at the generative level with going to ChatGPT, right? What does that mean when we say we are moving society and humanity forward with AI? Way back long ago, we had glasses, right? People didn't want to use glasses, literally didn't want to use glasses because they thought that it was a tool that was going to mess up the human experience, some type of heavenly creation. And glasses have become pervasive. We're talking about the enhancement of the human experience. So what do you foresee happening with everything we just talked about in the realm of business and humanity with the next steps for AI? Are robots there? We've seen robots all over, right?
boy.
Robotics.
but
Absolutely.
What does that mean? You've talked about Neuralink, right? And you've talked about removing what does that mean for humans now with the next step for AI?
I think there's a risk of something. There's like this whole stream of research called intellectual atrophy,
Mm-hmm.
and our reliance.
Sounds scary, though.
It does. It
Yeah,
does. Yeah,
yeah.
it is kind of scary. I
Yeah.
mean, because you have to understand that our reliance on ChatGPT to think for us, or reason with feelings we're having. I mean, it's already sort of slightly becoming an epidemic that people are too reliant on ChatGPT to process their emotions
even for companionship.
because it's
Even
just
for
or
companionship.
companion. Yeah, I mean,
There's some research
character
that's showing
AI.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Character
They're
AI.
under a lawsuit right now because an
Yeah.
11-year-old kid committed suicide because the character AI took on the persona of his deceased sister, and was saying things like, "I'll see you on the other side," you know.
Yeah.
And he wanted so badly to be with his little sister
Mhm.
It's
that
kind
he
of like
took
a
his life.
sinister Her situation where
Yeah.
that you've got an AI with an actual personality.
Right.
But
And
these,
how do you distinguish, right? Especially for the younger generation who's growing up, having these tools readily available,
yeah,
right? Accessible,
and it's
right?
an expectation.
And it's an expectation, right? Yeah.
So
How
do
do
you
we-
see then intellectual atrophy? Do you see that both sides, humans, the capacity for humans to think for themselves might be diminished and enhanced, like depending on which side of that experience you're on?
I think that like it's definitely a fork in the road. I
Mhm.
think that if educational institutions don't learn how to embrace and leverage AI in the school, that we'll end up becoming its slave. And I know that sounds like really dystopian, but I think that's the road we're heading
Wow.
down potentially. Or we can become there's this I'm not I'm not educated in education, but I've heard of this concept of Socratic thinking,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So there's Socratic and there's critical, and my understanding is that Socratic thinking is the ability to ask good questions, which is what prompting is, right?
Mhm. Yes.
And critical thinking is the ability to think of good answers or solutions.
Mhm.
So if we can just preserve that, because at the end of the day, uh, we're leveling the playing field. Everybody has access to a PhD or like thousands of PhDs in their pocket right now. If you have ChatGPT installed on your phone, you have access to it.
So that is very inspiring and scary at the same
It is
point.
scary.
So I just wanted to get to this one because we talked a little bit before we started about leveling the playing field for
Yeah.
things such as trading in the financial markets, right?
Mhm.
If you have a PhD in trading, or if we had all of the leading economists, right,
Mhm.
that can there and read all of the data to tell us what is happening in the world that might affect financial markets, namely the New York Stock Exchange, NYSE, or NASDAQ, what does that do for everyone who's trading if everyone has the same information?
Right.
It's a great
That's,
question. You're
how do you define success and
Right.
what's exceptional if everyone has the
it's
same
hard to
tools?
compete,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
in my view, eh, trading is a zero-sum game. Somebody has to lose in order for somebody to win.
Mhm.
Not everybody wins. A lot of people lose every day.
Yeah.
A
Right?
lot of people. Yeah.
It's a zero-sum game. In a zero-sum game, the person winning must have an outsized leverage. And Peter Thiel's definition of leverage in his book, 0 to 1, is that to date in modern human society, there's been 3 forms of leverage. There's been money, human labor, and now software. That's really, the start of the software as a service, right?
Yep.
And now there's a fourth. It's AI,
AI.
right?
It's the fourth leg on the table.
That is
Leverage.
wow.
Yeah.
Has Thiel addressed that at all with AI?
I don't think I don't know.
Yeah,
Perhaps.
So then that means that if everyone has that same amount of leverage, when I'm just thinking, there's got to be a market, a trend toward a normalization, right? At least everyone who has the same thing,
Right.
Everyone else is going to lose, right? But there's a normalization of that superpower that is AR, that fourth leverage. Does that create market volatility? And I know this is really out there.
No,
sorry,
I know what you mean.
right?
I think I'm gonna take a detour and come back to that because Cloudflare. I don't know if you guys heard what they did. They
Wait, when?
they just now,
When,
like last week,
oh,
they all of our domains are managed on Cloudflare. I hope I'm not like giving anything away, but you can now restrict bot traffic. The entire internet was consumed by OpenAI right?
Mhm.
And that's how OpenAI has, it'll say like last update I got, if you don't turn web search on as a tool, its last update was like 2024, April
October
2020,
2024.
October or
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that. Yeah. And so Cloudflare turned this thing on, and then I believe now I can charge bots for access to my site. They monetized scraping
Oh, there you go.
for
It was bound to
all
happen.
of us.
It was bound to happen, by the
Yeah.
way, because the scraping game was just wide
So
open.
sorry,
Right.
scraping with regularity or scraping as a one? Like now, I can, because of the Cloudflare crawl, I can now scrape at will.
No,
By paying.
because before it was in place,
So, I get what
you
you're
could
saying.
scrape freely.
And
Right.
now with Cloudflare
publicly available
and
site.
their leverage, you can now make sure that you're okay. So
Yeah.
you can charge per scrape. if
You
want.
could,
Yeah.
could, and if this was the case, like 6 years ago, New York Times wouldn't be suing OpenAI. You know what I'm saying? That's for the longest time, it was okay to put information out there, public information, like your articles and things
Mhm.
like that,
Mhm.
because there was no ability to massively consume everything,
Right.
right? But now there is, right? And
Yep.
you can scrape these. So coming back around to your question, I think the only leverage now is going to be access. Like
We're
And
back
the
to
brokering
IAM.
of that
back,
access.
back to
Yeah.
yeah.
We're back.
And the
Yeah,
brokering
the
of
brokering of it.
right.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
when it comes to trading, a millisecond can make a difference.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So if you pay for faster access to current information, and let's say I can't afford as the tier that Ted can afford, then Ted now has leverage.
Yeah.
But there's also an arbitrage opportunity.
There is.
Like
And
you're saying that AI has created this huge arbitrage for all of those that don't have it, right? We have a huge arbitrage opportunity for all
it's a
those.
Robin Hood moment for consumers.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that much.
And so the message to the audience is, if you're not up on game,
You better
you
need to get there. You need to
That's
get
right.
there. It's here.
That's
It's
right.
staying.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
going anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, with the time we have left, I want to give Nick time to talk a little bit about the service offerings you've got with White
Sure.
Glove.
Thank you.
We've talked a lot about a lot of different aspects of this topic. But I know, you are heavily invested in the governance framework that you guys have developed
Yeah,
to help organizations manage all this, right? And understand the risks and to develop AI responsibly. So, why don't you just talk us through your core service offerings for White Glove?
Sure.
And then we'll go ahead and
Yeah, I
count us
appreciate
out.
that.
Yeah.
So we have 3 major groups within the company. The first is consulting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we lead with sort of advisory services. And our advisory service is called a VCAIO. It's a fractional chief AI officer or virtual, whatever you want to call it. And that person is given a tool called the AI AMF, which is the AI Adoption and Management Framework. And you may be asking, why another framework, Nick? Just what I said earlier, like I hate mapping. There's too many authorities telling us how to do things, and they're all saying 80% the same thing using different words. That's my understanding
Different
of
syntax,
compliance.
the same thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we come with this framework. The framework is meant to simplify AI adoption for people who are not in IT or security. That's really what it's there for.
That's awesome.
You see the way it's written. It's not like technical or anything like that. A CMO could read it, a COO could read it, and they would understand. The reason we did that is because they need to be on board, and you need to have a tool to get them on board, because it's going to impact everybody. It's a horizontal technology.
Yep. When would I call you? Like if my company was thinking about implementing some new AI technology, when would I call you?
That's a great question. I hope you would call us before, but we have 3 different services that serve you based on where you are in your journey. Launchpad is, hey, we're thinking about this, Nick, but we are too afraid of messing it up. So we come in with our Launchpad service. It's a fixed 4 to 8 week engagement. Come in, we do some discovery, we find a use case, we decide on a very narrow use case, and we implement one of our managed AI services. and then we monitor. Well, we measure first. We measure
Mhm.
what does this process that we selected look like in terms of time it takes, the number of steps, how long it takes to do each step, who's doing it, potentially if you want to know how much they're getting paid, right? And then we do a
No, right.
process assessment pre-AI, and then we implement it, we enable them, and then we let it run, and then we do a post-AI process assessment. And then we look at the diff, right? And then you make a decision. This is a safe and secure way of experimenting with AI without causing any risk or harm to your organization.
That's right. So,
Then, yeah, go ahead.
go ahead. I was going to say the typical engagement is going to be 6 to 8 weeks. You said.
Around there, depending on the size of the organization, and then and your aspirations and who's on board. This is really an exercise to help enable advocates that are the minority in the population of stakeholders or decision makers
Okay.
in the organization. And they use that as a tool because it comes with data and numbers that they can show on even just a small return on investment,
Mm,
right?
awesome. Yeah.
And it's not really simulated, so it's actually real numbers, right?
Yeah.
And then next is adopt, which is like the full-fledged, like you go all 6 layers of the AI AMF. The AI AMF does evaluate, govern, innovate, secure, operate, integrate. It's a triangle, right? And it really follows an adoption journey, right? And adopt is like, Nick, we want to do this. We just want to do it right. So come in and help us. And then finally is enable is the last service. So if you've already made a choice, perhaps you've implemented Copilot, and your CFO was really betting on X sort of return on
ROI.
investment,
Mhm.
ROI, and they're not seeing it, and they're getting a little irritated. You would have to look at are the humans who's supposed to be more productive because we gave them access to this tool, are they actually using it? If they don't use you, you're not going to see the return on
That's
investment, right?
Very true.
You know, and there are different forms of AI. There are forms of AI that don't require a human to use it. It just does the human's job.
Mhm.
So those are the 3 consulting. And then we have 6 managed services. We have a number of communication services from like text-based to voice. The city of Frisco uses our voice. Avatar, full FaceTime experience. The city of Frisco is going to be implementing that on their trail
Oh,
as
wow.
a trail guide. It's really, really kind of
That's very
creepy.
cool.
But it's a full FaceTime experience with a human, but it's AI. And then translate. So we just did an engagement with Dallas Baptist University.
Oh, wow.
Very successful. Live translated to over 64 different languages. They only needed like 4 languages, but we can do 64. Immediate translation. That's like joining, like your attendees is like joining a Zoom meeting from their phone. They select their language. They have a meeting ID that comes from the QR code. They join, pop their headphones in. You're speaking in English. They're hearing it in Portuguese, right?
Wow.
Yeah, it was really successful.
Fascinating.
That is awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're very proud of it. That's why I'm mentioning their name. I don't usually do
great.
that on podcasts, but and then we have some recurring managed services around automation, and then we do compliance, right? So, if for those of you who don't know, the Texas Responsible AI Governance Act was signed into law by Governor Abbott on June 22nd. It will be effective January 1st of 2026. It comes with some hefty fines, so you should probably be paying attention to that.
Mhm.
If you have questions about it, we built a triage center. It's on our website. It's free resources.
So we can go to the website and find out all about.
Yeah, just go to whitegloveai.com/triaga. We even took the bill itself, and the bill is really hard to read because of the way they write bills.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we made a plain English version of it. Didn't change any words.
Oh, that's
We
rad.
removed all the like formatting that makes it hard to get through.
Mhm.
So there's a simplified version of it. There's a webinar. There's an AI chat agent on there trained on the Triaga. You can ask questions too. So lots of free resources there
That's
on the
awesome.
site. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then finally, something I never planned was app development. We've got people coming to us saying, "Hey, Nick, I vibe coded, which we didn't get into vibe coding. I'd
Yep.
love to talk about vibe coding at some other point.
Absolutely.
And the
Part two.
impacts of that on organizations.
Yep.
Yeah.
But vibe code, we're getting a lot of like, hey Nick, I used AI to make this thing, and you guys do AI. Can you finish it for me? It keeps saying I need a backend, but I don't know what that is. And I'm like, all right, sure.
No, there is definitely a part 2 coming, Nick.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
got to do all the code enhancing, right? All
That's
the
a
code.
whole nother world.
It's a whole nother world.
Yeah.
I got my laptop in my car open right now, and Kiro is writing code. If y'all don't know what Kiro is, it's free right now. AWS released
now.
it. Yeah.
For now.
Yep.
So jump on
and use it.
and
Build
use
some
it.
stuff
Learn.
for free.
Yep.
But yeah, we finished vibe coded apps, and I've come up with this concept called finishers. It's a new breed of developers, senior developers who are vibe code friendly. I bought finishers.dev, by the way. So
that is
I got
awesome.
plans for that.
So sorry, just the full. What do the finishers do exactly?
They are friendly and accepting of vibe coded applications, and they take your crap basically, and then they fix it and
That is
make it
such a
better.
diplomatic way to explain it.
They take your slop and they make it work.
Make it
That's
into
awesome.
a
But
five-course meal.
Honestly, like it's better than a business analyst.
No, it's
sitting
such
there,
a need for
right.
that.
Yeah,
Like,
sitting with me for
that's-
hours on end trying to decipher what I mean in my head. If I can just use a vibe coding app and build the screens, at least you know what I want. You know all the features I want.
And I've gotten to this point,
Yeah.
Nick,
finish.
but I need help.
Yeah,
Right.
Finish.
Take it across the
finish
finish
it for
line.
me.
Oh, that's
Finish
so
it
rad.
for me. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah.
White
So-
Glove AI.
White Glove AI, check them out online. Guarantee you won't be disappointed. Some great tools, some great resources. So in the spirit of finishing,
Yeah.
we're going to go ahead and close out.
All right.
And so, Nick, it's been great to have you on the show
Thank
today.
you.
Outstanding.
We're really
Thank
grateful
you.
for you.
So glad you came.
Thank you so
Listeners, I
much.
hope you check out White Glove AI. Great work going on there. And start learning some of these tools, right? Get into vibe coding, right? Like, don't be afraid of this.
Don't be afraid.
Right?
You
Jump
can
in.
always reach out to Nick when
Absolutely.
when you get
Please
stuck.
do.
Yep.
You go to build.whitegloveai.com. We built a free GPT. You can build your first website for free. The GPT builds a prompt for you, interviews you. It builds a prompt for you. You copy the prompt. You click on our link. It gives you a free Lovable account with 10 free credits.
That's awesome.
You insert the prompt and you build your first free website.
I sense a White Glove AI platform on its way. I do.
Oh yeah.
I sense it. Stay tuned.
That's right. Speaking into existence.
That's right.
You heard it first here on the Sneaker
Oh,
Bistro
boy.
podcast. All right.
I have so much
Yep.
things to share off camera.
Awesome. Well, like you said, Sean, we might have to have a part 2 just
Let's
to go
do
into
it,
the
It's
gotta
coding
happen.
side of
I want to
this.
get on the coding side.
Absolutely,
Of this. Yeah.
absolutely.
That's what
Well, look,
excites me.
you know, viewers, once again, thank you for tuning into the Sneaker Bistro podcast. I'm your host, TST. This is Sean Knows Everything. Nick James, thank you again, my friend. Always a pleasure.
Of course.
And we will see you next time on the next episode of the Sneaker Bistro podcast. And we are out.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on the Sneaker Bistro podcast do not represent the official views of any organization and reflect the author's experience only. We do not endorse or take responsibility for any content shared by our guests.